What's up, Space Monkeys? Welcome to Political Fight Club. Last episode of the day, and another one of those episodes that's not too fun to report on, but I got to do it anyway. And this seems to be happening a lot lately, but I have to remind myself that, shootings is a normal thing in the U.S., so if I'm going to be doing this, I need to be covering this stuff, and it is going to happen a lot. So I don't know why I'm surprised, but there was a shooting yesterday in Indianapolis. It was a single shooter walked into a FedEx store and killed 8 employees and injured many more, and then he shot himself. I was waiting to report on this until I saw that they had identified the shooter. They have now. He was 19-year-old Brandon Scott Hole of Indiana. He was a previous employee at that FedEx store. It doesn't seem to be apparent yet if there was people he was targeting or anything like that. It seems like he was just kind of randomly doing it. He didn't say anything before he started shooting. He just walked up, killed 4 people outside and 4 people inside, and injured numerous others. And then when police got on the scene, he shot himself. Like, he was already dead when they got there. So, it's a terrible tragedy. And what I'd like to make the point of this episode is that it seems, with what they're releasing about Brandon Hole, that he probably would not have passed a background check to get a firearm, because there was a rifle used. They haven't said what kind of rifle. But methinks that if he killed that many people, probably some sort of assault rifle. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. So this is another argument for, common sense gun reform. Background checks, closing the gun show loophole, if we could also get, do a non-mandatory buyback of assault rifles and ban bump stocks and high-capacity magazines, that would be preferable as well. There's other things we can do, but and those have like a 90% approval rating in the American public, so why can't we do it when this stuff keeps happening? So I'm going to read you something from the Indy Star, and this is what I'm talking about, where I think he probably would have been caught by a background check. So it remains unclear why Hall shot and killed the 8 workers at the facility near Indianapolis International Airport, but this was not the first time he'd encountered the police. Indianapolis police had confiscated a gun and took Hall into custody last year following suicide threats. An IMPD report from March 3, 2020 references a mental health check for suicidal tendencies and lists Hall as being arrested. Hall had purchased a gun and talked about suicide by the police, a situation in which a person prompts the police to kill him, according to the report. So they had the warnings there. He certainly should not have been able to access a rifle. It certainly seems like he's mentally unstable, and he almost, in a way, wanted to die. And not only die, but die by being killed by police. And beyond that, guys, I'm sure it'll come out that it turns out he's probably medicated, and he was either coming off of his meds or had the wrong dosage, or they were playing with his meds. A lot of this stuff turns out to be like, you're on something like Paxil, or which at this age, by the way, when you play with people's dosages for Paxil in teenagers, they get really suicidal, a lot of depression, and particularly when you're trying to get them off of something like Paxil or antidepressants, teenagers tend to get very, very suicidal. And that's not just me talking. I researched this 5 years ago. And of course I am a doctor. So what we'll find out here is that he's part of a bigger problem in the United States, which is mental health issues, but that's not the only problem here, guys. He can still have been if it turns out that he had some mental issues, or that he was having problems because his antidepressant dosages weren't correct, that could have been fixed by the medical system, and we, of course, should have Medicare for all and stuff like that to make sure mental health care is taken care of. But the fact of the matter is that regardless of his mental status, the police knew that he had issues in the past, and yet he was still able to get an AR, I would imagine, some sort of rifle. And he should not have been able to pass a background check. If we had stricter background checks and did common sense gun reform, it wouldn't have even mattered if he had suicidal ideation, because he wouldn't have been able to get the gun. Now, I'm not saying he still wouldn't have been able to get a handgun to kill himself, or still couldn't have tried to do the same thing with a handgun. But methinks he would have gone in there, he wouldn't have killed 8 people if he just had access to a handgun. If we restricted people like this from getting hold of weapons of war, we wouldn't have mass shootings. So, horrible news. But like I said, I think that Brandon Hull probably would not have been able to pull this off had we had common sense gun reform by now. So put that in your back pocket as more evidence towards, people that certainly would have not been able to commit the crime that they committed had we gotten our act straight earlier, which we haven't. And I imagine that even this happening is not going to change much in the U.S. But I'm going to keep screaming about it, guys. So keep fighting the good fight out there. I'll put a link to this in the description box.